And with that time of meditation, I would like to conclude my speech. No. Wait. Unfortunately, I do not think that Emory will let me off that hook that easily with my address today. To embody the Emory spirit fully, we need to consider the nature of human change, our changing world, and the global roles required for the future. Looking ahead, each of us can expect new beginnings and new challenges. However, I submit that a majority of these, in 4 years, in a decade, or in a lifetime, will surprise us all. To guide us, first consider the January 2013 issue of Science, where researchers measured the personalities, values, and preferences of more than 19,000 people, ranging from ages 18 to 68, and asked them to report how much they had changed in the last decade, and how much they would actually change in the next decade. Scientists say that regardless of the age of the participants, 20-somethings, 40-somethings, or 60-somethings, all believed that they had changed a lot in the past, but would not change much in the future. And all regarded the present as a watershed moment in which they had finally become the person they would be for the rest of their lives. The authors titled this article, "The End of History Illusion." I submit that all of us in the room today think we know the values and preferences we will continue to espouse for the rest of our lives. We each believe that our current life's chapter represents the ultimate defining chapter. Yet I submit that this is a false belief. Regardless of age, we would all underestimate how much our perspective and values will shift and grow. Thus, you can imagine my difficulty attempting to compose thoughts offering possible words of wisdom to the Emory Scholars class of 2013. 12 years after graduation, my own set of life's chapters still has new beginnings and new challenges to brave. My insights will, based on this study, change a decade from now, and they will change it again a decade following that. Yet where I have gone and what I have learned will remain lasting. So if you will permit me, perhaps sharing some of my experiences both as and after my time as an Emory Scholar will assist in us all considering our own new challenges and our new beginnings ahead. Between my sophomore and junior years in Emory, I took an 18-month leave to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity International as truly an occasional on-site EMT for builds in the Philippines, Romania, and Nepal. This included a Jimmy Carter Blitz build, where he built more than 290 homes with volunteers from 32 countries in the March of 1999. I self-funded these efforts by working for a Southeastern partner with Microsoft Corporation, serving as a systems developer and an IT project manager for 3-month stints before traveling abroad again. A line from a first-person essay I wrote in 2001 for the Emory Report expresses the same passion I feel today. Mission-focused work pulls you towards the experience, causes you to give completely. Never more have I felt more alive. The inspiration to volunteer overseas began in part with an Emory journalism internship in South Africa. While in Cape Town, I slowly discovered resistance amongst the editors in publishing articles on the escalating HIV/AIDS epidemic, even though South Africa had gone from 5,000 cases in 1994 to 2.4 million cases in 1998. The newspaper editors did not perceive the epidemic as affecting them. So I left my reporting position to talk about HIV/AIDS with the local students at Lusanza High School in the township of Kailisha. What followed was a pattern of volunteering overseas with occasional trips to work and replenish my funding over the next 18 months. Right before this time, an Emory College professor, mentor, and friend, Dr. Garland Richmond, told me with a jovial smile, "You will always make more of a difference as an insider in your home country than as an outsider." I do not think I fully appreciated the beauty and hidden challenge contained in Garland's words. In the years to come, I would. In January 2000, I returned from my hiatus with volunteering abroad. Several outdoor Emory friends and I capped the return with a 10-day build of Adobe-style homes in Taos, New Mexico, for New Year's while sleeping on the floor of a local Catholic church. That same year, I talked to the interested individuals at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention about joining them as the one IT person for the Small Bioterrorism Preparedness Response Program. By early 2001, I had actually joined the CDC's bioterrorism response team prior to my Emory College graduation in May. In August of 2001, several Emory Habitat Humanity friends and I volunteered on another Jimmy Carter work project in South Korea. I also enrolled as a part-time master's degree program at the Emory Rollins School of Public Health, with the plan of working for CDC for 3 to 4 years and then joining the Peace Corps. Then the world changed. On Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, at 9 a.m. in the morning, work required me to brief the FBI, CIA, and other partners of the Laboratory Response Network for the Bioterrorism Program on what IT solutions we would use if an event actually happened. I arrived early in my suit and tie that day to prepare, only to find that my unexpected call to service would occur at 8:46 a.m. when American Airlines Flight 11 hit the World Trade Center. While the CDC opted to evacuate its main campus as a security measure, those of us with the bioterrorism response team piled desktop and computers into cars. Such was the state of information sharing that time in government. And drove to an alternative facility. Working around the clock, we supported the bioterrorism response to the 7 terrorist attacks and monitored for any secondary possible events. At some point, I recall emailing my Rollins School of Public Health professor apologizing that I would need to miss class on September 12th due to work responsibilities. Thousands of local, state, and federal response individuals across the nation mobilized. While writing these state sentences in March 2013, I had hoped to say that there had not been a similar mass mobilization of counterterrorism resources in the United States in recent memory. But unfortunately, the tragic April events in Boston occurred. This underscores the importance of Emory graduates to help question, serve, and assist our work in thinking differently, analytically, and creatively about global challenges. On October 1st, 2001, we stood down from hiding glory. 2 days later, I flew to Virginia to brief the CIA on the contents of my original briefing on what IT solutions we'd use if a bioterrorism event happened. Less than 24 hours later, the CDC received an alert from a astute clinician in Florida of a possible patient with symptoms synonymous with exposure to anthrax. The world changed again. Months of activity followed with the anthrax events of 2001. The FBI faced multiple crime scenes requiring chain of custody of the evidence. The CDC confronted a low signal-to-noise public health emergency and an overwhelming volume of test requests. Later in 2002 came West Nile, followed by SARS, monkeypox, ricin exposure, and other public health emergencies. The events strained information flow up and down organizational hierarchies and strained the assembling of a full situational awareness across institutions of the emergent events. During this time, I concluded that the original founders of our nation did not design the U.S. government to respond well to disruptive events. The primary concern that the founders involved distribution of powers, averting from the rise of a possible king-like individual. Yet because they did not design our government to respond to disruptive events well, does not mean we cannot explore new ways to overcome such limitations. Instead, each of us can ask, how can we help public institutions work better given our changing world? During the turbulent times, I also met my wife, Diane, representing a third and personal world change. Meeting and marrying Diane represents the best unexpected event in my life. Cute, smart, kind, and reflective. Diane served in the Peace Corps in Kenya and currently worked as a nurse at Emory Hospital. Our first date was January 1st, 2002, a New Year's Day for an uncertain world. 3 years later, we were married. Diane sometimes jokes that if I was asked by a stranger to tell the story of how we met, inevitably I would also tell the tragic story of 9/11. Perhaps I link in my mind these stories to try and find good in the midst of the tragic events that happened then. Fast forwarding to the graduating Emory scholars all present here today. I wonder what of those events, more than a decade old, do you remember and what did they mean to you? Can you recall the world preceding those changes? Personally, I deeply hope that we return to a world where harmful human actions on civilians, whether from explosives, bio, nuclear, or cyber, do not hang like a specter overshadowing the hope and promise of global humanity. Yet to achieve that better world, I need to implore each of you here today to help. You can make a positive difference in the world, whether through intentional actions or in response to unforeseen events. You can make a positive difference in the world through either your chosen vocation or your avocation. You can and should make a positive difference by embracing change, both in the world and in yourself. On the topic of embracing change, little did I know 5 years after my graduation from Emory, my time at CDC would convince me to pursue a PhD at the Wazetta Business School, focused on how to improve response to disruptive events. During that time and the postdocs that followed, I studied as a student of Dr. Ben Kaczynski, the Emory professor I most admire, to the point where I am proud to say I am a student of Ben, or an infamous SOB. Continuing the topic of embracing change, Diane and I moved to DC in 2008, and only a few months later, I asked for her support while I volunteered to deploy for 120 days to Afghanistan as a civilian to help the International Security Assistance Force members think differently about military and humanitarian operations in the region. A brief side note, for all Emory scholars present here, please, please, never lose the ability and inclination to think differently, analytically, and creatively about world challenges. I implore you, above all else, this represents why the world needs your service and your efforts to make a positive difference. Find where you can use your gifts for the greater good. After Afghanistan and returning to the United States to help ghostwrite some science policies for our government, there came another call to service post-WikiLeaks. Information sharing now needed to evolve to include internal information safeguarding, and I wanted to make sure we as a nation did not revert back to compartmentalized information sharing prior to 9/11. I underestimated the amount of learning, work, and growth I would experience as a senior executive in government. In fact, Rudyard Kipling has a line from his poem If, published in 1895, that expresses this call to service best. Fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Ever since my father gave me a copy of that poem when I was 20, I have carried it around in my wallet. I have photocopied it, I have shared it with both civilian and military friends, including friends deployed in Afghanistan, over the 15 years since. The poem describes what actions one must do to get good out of the unrepeatable and always advancing minutes of our lives. The poem also offers inspiration for those of us striving to make positive changes in our complex world of diverse actors and systems. For those of you interested, after the talk, I have brought copies to take home. I would like to end with a few final thoughts on filling the unforgiving minute of your lives ahead. New York Times columnist David Brooks published a column on November 28, 2011, entitled "The Life Reports 2." He previously asked people over the age of 70 to send him essays about their own lives and what they had done poorly and well. He then extracted several general life lessons from the essays received. 6 of them, I believe, merit consideration on this graduation weekend. Number 1, divide your life into chapters. Number 2, you cannot control other people. Number 3, lean towards risk. Number 4, measure people by their growth rate, not by their talent. Number 5, people get better at the art of living. Number 6, work within institutions or crafts, not outside of them. Number 6 represents the wisdom of Professor Garland Richmond back in 1998, of Professor Ben Kaczynski during my PhD pursuits, and of my father when he shared Rudyard Kipling's poem. Social institutions matter, and they are needed, and they need your help as an insider to adapt to our increasingly changing, interconnected world. Nation-state boundaries increasingly matter less. Mobilization of people and ideas increasingly matters more. With globalization, increasingly ubiquitous internet technologies, and the increasing accessibility of individuals of scientific and technological capabilities previously accessible and affordable only to nation-states, actions half a world away can and will affect others. Whether these actions represent positive or negative effects on our world depends on the knowledge and intent of those human actors. As Emory scholars, your education at Emory has prepared you to brave a journey to think differently, analytically, and creatively about those challenges. The world needs your skills. The love and insight shared by your family, friends, professors, and mentors will serve as guideposts on this journey and its surprises ahead. I will leave you with one last thought. In his 1996 book, The Road Ahead, Bill Gates wrote, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. family's sake, each nation's needed service, and most importantly, our shared global future, embodying focus and purpose, fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, and as Emory graduates, enact positive difference in our service to the world. Thank you, and congratulations all.